Fall camp is here, and UCF has to replace RJ Harvey. Who's going to do it?
You are Locked On UCF, your daily podcast on the UCF Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On UCF, your daily UCF podcast. I'm your host, Mike G, and thank you so much for making us your first listen of every day. Turn us up, turn us on, we'll turn it out. I'm here with my good friend, Andrew Glucov, purveyor of all things UCF sports. Nobody does it better than Andrew Glucov when it comes to breaking down and analyzing UCF sports. UCF
flattery will get you everywhere.
UCF analyst extraordinaire, also UCF alum. For those of you out there that think we're a fake UCF podcast, we're real. We got real alum.
I'm a two-time alum. I've done it twice.
There you go. Look, let's get into the show. Scott Frost took the podium to talk to the media ahead of fall camp. And he was asked some questions about the run game. He was asked kind of a personal question about if he has something to prove that I want to get into with all the talk of did he take the right job or the wrong job? It's going to be fun to get into that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about that QB competition again. Let's start with the run game. He was asked about replacing RJ Harvey. Big shoes to fill, something we've talked about a lot. Let's listen to what Scott Frost had to say.
Scott, you talked about starting with a clean slate, but how do you replace a guy like RJ Harvey, and what do you envision maybe that running backs room being, maybe not necessarily relying on one guy, but maybe a collective of everyone?
Well, first of all, I've gotten to meet RJ a few times since I've been here. My son's name, Ashley and I had our RJ in 2017, so he's got the same name as my son, so my son likes him. But what a good guy. I think he landed in a really good spot in a place where he's going to get an opportunity to compete and do well. So I'm excited for him. You don't really replace guys like that. What I am excited for is Miles Montgomery in particular has been in the shadow for quite a while, and he's a really good player. So it's exciting to see guys like that get their chance. I remember being at Oregon and Michael James was second in the Heisman, but we had a couple guys like Kenyon Barner behind him, and the next year you were able to see what Kenyon Barner could do. I'm hoping that same thing happens for Myles. Then we got Jaden Nixon and Stacey Gage and Swint behind them, and those guys really fit what I want to do offensively. So there's no replacing a guy like RJ, but I do feel really good about the guys that we have that are going to be toting the rock this year.
When asked about replacing RJ Harvey, the first back he mentioned was Miles Montgomery. Do we read between the lines here? Does this mean that Miles Montgomery is leading the running back race? Before we started recording, we talked about Jaden Nixon being on the Maxwell. Watch list. But he mentioned Miles Montgomery. Now, he mentioned all the other running backs, to be fair. But what do we make of him saying, I hope that Miles Montgomery gets to follow in the footsteps of somebody like a Kenyon Barner who backed up, a Heisman Trophy finalist like LaMichael James?
Well, I mean, here's first thing. One, the expectation is Miles Montgomery is going to be one of your team captains. Aside from the fact that, we've seen him in interviews, and he's one of the guys who was brought to pro day, to media day. Usually those guys ends up being, amongst your peers, the leaders. And so the expectation is he's going to be a team captain. But, just everything we've heard, everything we've seen, Phil Steele putting him on second team all preseason Big 12, the Maxwell list, which is for, one of the top offensive players, top players in college football. They all have Jay Nixon. Just seeing the two play, over time, I always thought that Nixon was the better player. But, obviously, situationally, things change. And nor does it really mean a whole lot in the running back room. If Montgomery starts, but Nixon may still end up getting the bulk of the carries. So at the end of the day, whoever trots on the field first is not necessarily the lead back. It's just, perhaps that's the way the offense is designed for, the scripted plays, So I'm still kind of Team Nixon on this one. But I love Miles Montgomery as a change of pace back. He's really good at it. I thought he did an excellent job of adjusting for when RJ Harvey struggled. He was successful, and then the script flipped and it allowed the running team to continue doing what they're doing, as opposed to having to panic and run the ball in a situation that wasn't working, or take a quarterback who couldn't throw a ball and put him in a position to have to throw the ball. Obviously, we're expecting a little more balance this year compared to last year, but I don't think, other than Gage and Swint, which Frost basically behind them, those are the guys buried in the depth chart as your 3 and 4, redshirt freshmen, true freshmen. But I think you're still going to see a lot of Nixon, Montgomery. Whoever starts the first offensive play, I don't think it matters, but I still think Nixon's going to ultimately be the better running back stat-wise. But, stats aren't everything.
Stats are not everything, but I will tell you this, 232 carries for RJ Harvey last year, and I still felt like he was underutilized. Now, Miles Montgomery had 51 carries last year. I think both Jaden Nixon and Miles Montgomery are going to get carries. So I just want to be clear on this. I think both of those guys are going to get carries, and you see more of a two-headed monster than the one-man band that RJ Harvey was. What does the division of reps look like? I think that's going to be the question, right? At running back, you mentioned Myles as a change of pace back, but Scott Frost kind of talked about him in a vein that it was like, hey, look, man, he's got the ability to be an every down back. So we'll see what they come up with there. You need two guys at running back. You need multiple guys.
Let's think about this, but let's look at it a different way. Maybe this is a little bit of psychological warfare going on. Maybe this is a way of saying, hey, you have the chance to be the man. Now you got to take it to the next level. It could have been a little bit of some behind the scenes stuff going on too, because we've talked to people inside the program and they've talked up Jaden Nixon and how great he's been doing. So perhaps it's just on the way, iron shapes iron, and perhaps this is a way of helping Myles take it to the next step in his you haven't seen my next transformation yet. Take it to that next level, because we've seen hints of it. But because he's never been the guy, and we expect him to get more than 50 carries. Obviously, Nixon's not going to get 200 carries, but we expect to see a lot more balance compared to what we saw last year. But, we're still going to see Montgomery get the ball a lot, which means he can't just be a change of pace guy. He's got to be able to carry, the load as well. I know he had some knee injuries, and that didn't help. He was just, a little bit dinged up. So just another way of looking at some of the comments, because again, Scott Frost, man, you got to kind of, he talks a lot in almost code where you have to read in between the lines, and because he'll say stuff, he'll talk, but what he's actually saying may not be exactly what you think he's saying.
Yeah, indeed. Look, one of the things he did say was that he said, "Don't take the wrong job." Does he have something to prove now that he is in the right job? We'll talk about that next on Locked On UCF. This episode of Locked On UCF is brought to you by our friends at 5 Hour Energy. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor to your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need an extra boost to stay sharp. What's the wildest shot you've ever made? Was it a total fluke or well-calculated miracle? 5 Hour Energy has a lot of great flavors that will help keep you in the game, and they taste great. Golf is all about a good time with good people and good flavors. Of course, the great ginger lime flavors give you the best parts of your clubhouse to go without chasing down the beverage cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that is the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use our promo code LOCKEDONGolf to receive $20 off your order. This offer is only valid until September the 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. So head on over to 5hourenergy.com. Use code LOCKEDONCollege to receive $20 off your first order. Does he have something to prove this second go around? I actually love this question. Let's listen to what Scott Frost had to say about having something to prove this go around at UCF.
Scott, it's been 3 years since you last coached in college. Do you feel like this season you have something to prove, not just maybe to people, but to yourself about it?
I think in my bad times, I feel like I have something to prove, yes. But this isn't about me. And one of my first messages to the team tonight will be football is what we do, and I want to be elite at it and be the best that we can be at it and get better every day. But football's not life. And I think sometimes when you make football the most important thing in your life, then you ride the highs and lows of that. It can wreck you individually and personally. And I want the guys to keep the most important things. And I think that makes you even better at football. So we're going to love it and have fun doing it and be the absolute best we can be. But I think if I said I had a lot to prove personally, that would be about me. And it's not about me. It's about this university and this team.
I love this answer. It's not about me. It's about the team. But he also had a very important life message that I think is very important. Andrew, very early on in my corporate career, I sunk myself into work. And I was very good at it, and I was very successful. I've carried that success over into sports media. But one of the things that I learned was that because that's all I had given myself, when I experienced my first work failures, it felt like my life was crumbling down around me. And Scott Frost says that he wants his players to understand there are things outside of football that will help make you better at football. And so you need that balance. What a great message by Scott Frost to his players. I actually love this. I saw some negative reactions on social media to this. I didn't understand it. I think this is a great message.
Well, there's a few ways you can take this. One, you could take it kind of, more like the optimist that you're going with, where you're taking, you being Scott Frost, you're taking the mistakes you've made and you're trying to do better by, showing it to the people who look up to you of how to do things. Hey, I've made mistakes. I don't want you to make the same mistakes. Another way of looking at it is in media and journalism, the key is don't make yourself the news. You're same thing with being a coach. It's about the team and the players. In Nebraska, eventually became all about what Scott Frost was up to. He became the news, and it ended up like enveloping the whole program in a dark cloud as a result. So another point of view is he's working to avoid the possibility of being the news. And so he's redirecting the narrative. This is about the school. This is about the program. This is not about me. Because, I've already seen what happens when it's about me, and it's not good. So that's another way you can look at. Again, with Scott Frost, reading between the lines, both ways can be accurate and correct at the same time. He's made mistakes. He's trying to help others by not making the same mistakes. Concurrently with, I've been the center of the story before. I don't want to be the center of the story before. It wasn't good the last time. And so I'm going to try and push the narrative back towards the players and the program. So again, both points of view can be correct, but there's definitely different takes you can take on this.
Yeah, look, I mean, at the end of the day, the only thing he really has to prove is that he can win football games. That's it. I think that's what you got hired to do, win football games. Don't go 4-8, Scott, and you'll be proving more than the last coach. So he's going to get it together. I like this message. I can't stress enough. I really like the message to his players about balance in life and about, finding joy in things outside of football. I do think that is a very important message for young people, not just players, but young people entering the workforce and understanding what work-life balance is, at least to some extent. Now, when you're chasing
the thing.
Yeah, when you're chasing greatness, sometimes people will not always understand your obsession with the work. But certainly, if that's all you're going to give yourself, there are going to be some really hard ebbs and flows, and keeping those guys emotionally grounded, I think, is going to be part of the job here for Scott Frost. But look, on the last segment, we talked QBs and something. He was asked another question about QBs. We'll talk about what he had to say about those QBs next on Locked On UCF. QB. Everybody wants to know about QB, and when they're going to keep asking about QB until there is a starting QB, and then they're going to ask more questions about the starting QB. Let's listen. This one's a little bit longer, but let's listen to what Scott Frost had to say on kind of where the QBs stand coming out of spring and going into fall camp.
You've talked about the gains made during spring. Where did you leave spring in terms of the quarterback position? Where were guys then, and what are you expecting to see here in the first week of practice?
Yeah, there's a saying in football, if you have multiple quarterbacks and you don't have one. And I think sometimes that's true. I don't feel that way about this team. We've got 3 guys that did well enough in spring that I feel like if they were our starter, I'd feel really good about it. We'd probably design the offense a little different based on who that quarterback was. But all 3 of them are capable of making us a dangerous team. The sooner it clarifies, the better off we'll be, because we'll be able to get some reps with that guy, more reps with that guy, start to develop continuity. But we're also not going to anoint anyone. I had a meeting with the 3 the other day, and we're going to grade every single snap, every single play. And I told them mostly it's going to be based on, did you make the winning play on that play? Sometimes that might be a 50-yard completion. Sometimes it might be taking a sack or throwing the ball away. Sometimes it might just be handing the ball off. But I really am going to lean on the guy that puts us in the best position to win by making the right decision in every play. And we're going to give all 3 guys an opportunity, and hopefully that clears itself up pretty quick.
How quickly do you want to make a decision?
I would love to make a decision 2 weeks ago, but to be fair to those guys, we're not ready to, because they've all done good things, all 3 of them. Got to mention Dobby too. He came in and is doing a really good job. So I feel good about the level of talent. But like I said, we're not going to anoint anyone. So it's up to those guys to determine it. And usually through the course of camp, it isn't just us that knows. They know, and the whole team knows. And if we get to a point, we get to game 1 and it's not clear, then the competition will probably continue. But I think we're better as a team if somebody steps up and takes it.
Whew, a lot to unpack there. Number one, he said, he reiterates, they're not going to anoint anyone. Number 2, he points to decision-making. Which guy makes the right decisions? Something you can evaluate in practice. Like, are you making the right reads? Are you, making the right check downs? Are you seeing the field as a QB? But he also, which I think is the most important thing, said that there is a possibility they go into game 1 and are still figuring it out. And that could be the real life audition for UCF's starting job in game 1. What do you think about UCF essentially doing a rotation of quarterbacks, because you're going to win that game? This is just put out. You're going to win that game. You're gonna win that game no matter what. And
speaking it into existence, are we?
right, you can use that game to figure out who the best guy for the next game is.
I mean, if they got to go into game one without any, without a semblance of settlement, I'm concerned. I'm very concerned.
Yeah,
you got to have something in place. Remember, this is not an FCS cupcake. This is an FBS school, and any FBS school can sneak up and beat you. Expectations are going to be high going into this game. It's Thursday night. It's First Frost version 2.0. The fans are going to be absolutely rabid. They're going to have expectations because there's a lot of nostalgia wanting to see history repeat. And if you can't get a starting quarterback figured out by week one, well, you're going to have some problems, because usually if that's the case, it's not that they're both doing great. It's that they're both not doing great. And it's like, I don't have a guy I can rely on to throw out there, so I'm going to rotate them. And if you have three, that's even worse. Like, what are you going to do? Rotate them every series? Then you have zero continuity. You have three guys who play very different style of football. So then you have a playbook problem. Now you have a offensive identity problem. You have a chemistry problem. There's all sorts of problems that come from not having any form of definitive, choice on who your starting quarterback's going to be, considering all three of these guys are just really different, types of athletes. I like Scott Frost's answer, and I thought it was an excellent question with a good follow-up. I want to point out it was a great question, good follow-up. But he said, when you have multiple quarterbacks, you have not. No, that isn't sometimes true. That is almost always true, and it very rarely works. And sorry, I am not convinced that it would work at UCF. It would.
Yeah, Andrew. This is the only. He said a lot of good things during his press conference. There's the only thing that I'm calling a little bit of cap on is this whole we feel good about all three guys. No, you don't. No, you don't. You're not letting them know that right now. But look, they're going to have to settle on a guy. Whoever the first guy that goes out, it will be interesting to see what kind of leash, if they go into game one in the situation we just described, what kind of leash do you give the guy who goes out there first? Because he might not necessarily be the starter. He just might be the guy that goes out there first, right? Like, and when I say, what I mean? Do you understand what I'm saying when I say he might not necessarily?
It was the same thing with the running backs.
Yeah.
It's like we talked about the running backs, one guy, whoever comes out, gets that first carry, plays that for play. That doesn't mean they're the guy. It's just, they're the ones that fit at that moment.
Yeah. Or who knows? It could be situational with play calling. They want to do something particularly offensively. It's better suited to one guy or the other. But ultimately, somebody's going to have to stand out. And, what's done in games definitely counts more, I think, where, you can't always, it's very hard sometimes to project practice to the real deal. Some guys practice great and then crap their pants when it's time to the lights are on.
We saw it last year with EJ Colson. He had a good string of practices, got a chance to start, and absolutely, fell on his face.
Yeah. When the lights are on,
it doesn't always convert.
Yeah, it doesn't. Look, I'm a golfer, so I can tell you. Sometimes I feel like Tiger Woods on the practice tee, get to the first tee, and then shank.
So, I'm a bad golfer. Does that count?
Yeah. Listen, it's all relative, but I will tell you that for Scott Frost, hopefully he has a gamer in this group that just goes out and plays football, and does it well enough for UCF to win the games that they're supposed to win, the way they're supposed to win them, and then hopefully if it all gels right and they are doing some of the things that he said during this press conference, you steal a game or two that nobody expects you to win in year one. I think that's how you get to a bowl game. And I think that would be a really, really good start to the Scott Frost tenure coming off a 4-8 season. But hey, listen, either way, we'll be around to talk about it as the season approaches. Andrew, we're going to have a ton of fun covering UCF football this season. So guys, lock in with us at Locked On UCF as we go through the season. We're going to have lots of great content for you guys. Andrew, I want to thank you for joining me today. Guys, thank you so much for making Locked On UCF your first listen of every day. For your next listen, go check out our friends at The Portal Show. Our guy Brian Smith has the latest signings, rumors, all the going-ons in college football right there on The Portal Show. You can find them on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. You can find us here next time on Locked On UCF.